thank you so much for coming out on this kind of cold winter day here in New York City. We're really excited to have you. So first, I just want to say that this event is sponsored by Startups.co and Entrepreneur Magazine, of course, also GA, which is why you are all here today. So thanks to all of our sponsors. If you're watching at home, you can ask questions during the chat in your live chat panel or on Twitter. Just make sure you use the hashtag GALive. We're going to have people monitoring that throughout the talk, and at the end, we're going to get to questions. We're going to get to all of your questions as well. But of course, the big thank you to Daymond John for being here today and chatting with us about the book. This is really exciting. The Power of Broke. It is your third book, right?
Yep.
It is your third book. And the idea is about scrappiness and starting from a place of broke fuels creativity, innovation. Tell me about what your definition is of the power of broke. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so the power of broke is a mentality. It's something that I find that almost in all entrepreneurs that are successful from a startup stage take on to the world of where they are successful, and they apply it even more at that time to keep their success.
Yeah.
And you know, again, I've said this often that I'm not trying to glamorize the fact that when people don't have money and say, wow, you don't have money, congratulations. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you're in a situation where you don't have access to what you need, that you can either complain about it, listen to other people and have them tell you why you don't have it, or you can tap into that energy, that drive, and that focus, and you can maximize it. So that is the power of broke. It's the fact that you don't accept the old stories and cliches of you need money to make money, you need to know somebody, you have to have a talent, or you have to be built a certain way, or you have to have a history or a family member or something like that. None of that matters. It's all crap.
Yeah, which is, I think when you say broke, a lot of people think, you know, broke meaning capital, you know, broke meaning you don't have a lot of money or resources, but broke can mean not feeling like you don't have the education, not feeling like you don't have the connections or the network. Is there something that an entrepreneur or a wantrepreneur can't be broken? Is there an area that they have to start out strong?
Yeah, they have to start out strong in a couple of areas. They have to start out strong with the will to know that they need to learn. They have to start out strong with the understanding that they will be stopped, fail, or have hurdles way more than anything else, but that is not going to define them. 1 mistake, 2 mistakes, 20 mistakes. Those are the things they need to have. And when you look at somebody like me, you know, I grew up close to here, Hollis, Queens. I didn't know anybody. My mother and father got divorced, so I grew up in a single household. We wouldn't have heat for often in the winter. I got left back one time. I'm dyslexic. I didn't go to college. I can't sing, rap, dance, throw a basketball.
Unless you have any requests.
I'm a little short, a little round sometimes. So, you know, if I could do it, everybody else could do it. And if anybody else thinks that I just got struck by lightning, I put in here 14 other amazing entrepreneurs, CEOs, social media moguls, and everything else that did it, and they all tapped into the same exact thing. And in this book, there's people from the head of Under Armour to Steve Aoki to you know, other musicians and athletes. And when I say Steve Aoki, people always go, oh, well, his dad had Benihana.
Right.
So he wasn't broke. He actually had a tougher time than most of us, because when he went to the city and to the streets of New York to play music and be accepted by the cool kids and the hungry kids, they said, get out of here. Yeah. Go back to your little, wherever you're from, your mansion, whatever you are. And he had to earn respect there. But then when he went back home, his father said, I came over here as during World War II, and I busted my butt to make this. Spinning records? That's a job? Unless you work in this company, in this family business, I'm not giving you a dime. So he actually was, you know, it was harder for him.
He was broker than broke.
He was broker than broke.
Right, which is something that you say in the book, and I love that you share so many different stories. It's not just your story. Many people here, big fans, are familiar with your story, but it is these 14 entrepreneurs. They're from all different backgrounds, all different age groups, and they achieve success in really different ways, which I think is important to showcase. How did you choose which entrepreneurs to feature, and what did you learn from spending time with them? How did your definition of power, broke, change, or evolve?
I chose the entrepreneurs because I first looked at a list and I said, I have to cut this up and make this available to as many people as possible that want to hear the story. So I have to make sure that a good amount of women have other women they can relate to. Music. Older and more mature individuals, as well as the young millennials, have to understand. So I wanted to make sure that was that, first of all. Then I went out and I reached out to them. I reached out to everybody that I really, and everybody I admire. That's more important than anything else I admire. There's a lot of wealthy people that I don't admire because they're not, first of all, they're miserable, right? And I don't consider them successful when they're miserable. So I had to make sure that the people I put in the book fit the right model.
Yeah, you just talked about millennials. I think this is a room full of millennials. I'm a millennial. I talk a lot about millennials. We get a bad rap. And one of the things that we get a bad rap for is being entitled, which you talk about entitlement in your book and how, not saying millennials are entitled, but for those who feel like maybe they're starting out a little bit entitled or maybe they don't have that self-awareness, that they're actually on a harder path than almost anyone. How does entitlement and that sort of characteristic hurt a person and a business?
Entitlement hurts you, it's dramatic. You know, it's the nurturing, you know, of somebody by with cash or certain things when your parents and or people don't let you go out and fight for yours. And then when you meet the real world where 99.9% of people are scraping for a living and things of that nature, you're traumatized. Yeah. You know, and I've said it many times that if you needed money to make money, then Forbes, Entrepreneur Mag, and anything else, and any other of the magazines that rate the people who are successful around the world, the top 1,000 people around the world in any category, 65% of them, in regards to wealth, 65% of them were self-made men and women. So if 65% of them were self-made men and women, then that means that it's not generational wealth that just passed down and said, all right, son, you're going to be rich. All right, my daughter, you're going to be rich. These are people that were all broke. Yeah. And then it shows then the other people that had money, they didn't necessarily learn what they needed to learn. They were nurtured.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's interesting because right now, I mean, you're definitely not broke. Maybe you came from a place of broke. You're not broke now. At least not that we know of. If you are, then we shouldn't have the IRS.
Listen, I am broke in a sense, if you think about it, because I always say, you know, if Mark Cuban woke up with my money, he'd cut his wrist and he'd jump right out that window.
Right, there we go. Right? So in somebody's eyes, you're broke.
And if Bill Gates woke up with Mark Cuban's money, he would blow his brains right out. It's over.
And if you woke up with my money, you would do the same thing. That's the truth. So this idea of power broke, it evolves over time. And one of the things that's interesting, you and I first met in 2011 when I was working for Seth Godin, and I've known you for the past few years, and I'm always impressed by your hustle, this idea of rise and grind, of work. I mean, our interview that we did for the last book was at 11 p.m. at your office. It was us and the cleaning staff. How does the power broke, how has it evolved with you? How does it evolve as you become less broke, hopefully? Yeah,
well, so the power of broke doesn't evolve to be less broke. The power of broke evolves for you to utilize it more efficiently and tap into it and be happy that you have this mentality. So exactly. We were in the office 11 o'clock at night. It took us a million times to get the thing together because of my hectic schedule. I'm putting out this book. I wouldn't necessarily be here if I thought this book was going to change lives and I can buy billboards and buy magazines. But I'm operating the power of broke now. You know, in there I was doing a Facebook stream to thank all the people that have been posting it. But more importantly, I want to hear, posting the book, when they receive it, I want to hear what they have to say, because it doesn't mean that everything I wrote in there is absolutely right, or maybe I didn't answer a couple of questions that people want to know because I'm too close to it. So I operated every day like that. But I made my biggest mistakes when I had money. I made my biggest mistakes when, you know, I decided to invest in a female's clothing line, really brilliant designers, and I figured that because I know men's clothing, which I make great men's clothing, that it's just manufacturing, production, and distribution. So I go and I start doing these $500,000, 7th on 6th fashion shows, because of course the whole world needs to know about it. I hire this great brand manager, advertising agency, and everything else, and then I turn around and 3 years later, I blew $6 million. Right? Because my designers were great designers. They were costume designers. They did not know ready to wear. They didn't know how to price the goods. I don't know the buyers of the female division in Macy's and everything else. Every time I had all those type of lines and product extensions, I licensed it out to another expert. So because I didn't roll up my sleeves and get in that business and maybe listen to what the people are saying. I just listened to what all the people I hired were saying. And when you hire a bunch of people and you don't learn it yourself, well, you might have a level of success, but no matter what, if you want to fire those people, they can hold you hostage to your business because they know everything. And then when you start all over again, you don't know anything. What's going on? So I didn't put in the time and energy to have the skill set run through the maze. I just wanted to enjoy the cheese.
Yeah.
And what happened was it cost me $6 million. And I made another mistake like that. It cost me $3 million.
All right, you're done with the $1 million mistakes, I hope.
I was.
Good.
After that, I realized
Good.
if I don't set and go back, I'm not doing anything besides buying time.
Yeah.
I'm just making a bigger mistake by saying $1 million is going to solve this. $1 million is only going to make people, give me, pull my coattail for a year while they keep their jobs.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the importance of feedback, the importance of listening to your audience and your market, and we're listening to you. So if you're watching online, another reminder to make sure if you have questions, we're going to get to them. They're going to pop up on this screen right here in just a bit. But you need to use the hashtag GALive on Twitter, or you can ask them in your live chat, which you see and I do not. All right, so we talked about raising money and starting from a place of having no money. Do you think that young founders today, young entrepreneurs, raise too soon? Are we all racing to raise money for companies that maybe aren't real companies yet? What's your thoughts on that?
You know what? The millennials do have a bad rap. There's two types of millennials. They are ones who feel entitled. They're the ones who said, well, Instagram sold for $1 billion and this and this and that, and we just only need to do that. By the way, it's OPM, getting other people's money. Those are the guys and girls that are a little lost, but I'm not mad at them because everybody puts their best representative on Twitter and Instagram and on videos, right? That's the hey, all right, we all seen. I saw this girl on Twitter the other day from my high school. She looked exactly like she did in high school on Twitter, right?
They have some good apps these days that can do that.
I saw her in person.
Very different story, huh? It's about the angle. It's a selfie.
Yeah. She looked like 200 pounds of chewed bubble gum in a 50-pound bag. It looked horrible. But she was still in her cheerleading outfit on Twitter.
It's a tweetable, by the way.
Saying that was her.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So what I was saying, people start to put these representatives and these fake things in, online in the world, and that's crap. But now you have the other side of the millennials who, will band together and they'll overthrow a government with just Twitter. They don't need machine guns and things of that nature. Well, they'll come behind a cause, and the millennials who want to save this planet more than my generation wanted to. And the millennials who, when I used to go to the office, we used to work from 9 to 6 or 9 to 8 as long as the phone was there. Millennials now will say, my phone's attached to me all the time. You call me anytime. You do whatever you need to do. I'm here 24 hours a day. Yeah. And those are the ones who will sit there and say, I don't need a big office. I come to places like General Assembly and I work with other like-minded people, or I go on social media and before I even try to create a store or anything else, I just go out to my 200, 300, 400 friends, try to go to some affiliates. I try to sell 1, 2, 7, 9 pieces, get the idea in, and sell it again and make it better. So you have two types of millennials, and that's the type of people that people need to be like, the ones who take affordable steps.
You touched on a good point that we have this abundance of information, access to resources like this. Do you think that hurts or helps the concept of the power of broke? Do you think abundance and access is good for us as a generation, us as founders, entrepreneurs?
It absolutely is a benefit. When you can open up your smartphone and empower yourself and get data on your customer, it is a step forward because, only 15 years ago when you would sell to a store and the store may sell to a customer, you had no idea who they sold to. You had no idea if the person liked it, didn't like it, was the price sensitive, was the price great, too low, too high, did it fit? Now you can create this pot of people that you know who they are. You know what they like, what they dislike. You can upsell them. You can find out if they didn't like it, why didn't you like it? What can I do for you? What is missing in your life right now? So this is the most amazing time ever to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's right. And so you talked about this access to data and research, and in the book you talk about how important it is, instead of spending time focusing on a business model, to actually get to know your market, to actually understand who you're selling to. Using that kind of data, what are some things that just application-wise that you can recommend for people that want to apply this to their research process? What are some things they can do?
There's many things. See, the bottom line is the fundamentals of business are never going to change. It's only going to be the new way that we're going to execute it. So it's the same as the old copywriting game. When you make 10 copies, you put them in 10 different newspapers, and you go, buy this dress today at $79. The next copy you write, don't you wish you had this dress at $79? The other one, do you know there's dresses out there at $79, and would you pay $79, right? You look at that. You take out $50 ads on Facebook, 10 different ways, and you target a couple of different people. If you see ad number 1 gets 5 people who like it, and they question it, or they opt in, ad number 2 gets 2 people, ad number 3 gets 30, then you stop and pull down ad number 3. You start replicating ad number 3, and you keep pushing it back out there. That's the old copy game. That can be done. That's the same fundamentals of anything else. The other fundamentals of converting customers are, if you can convert half of 1% of your customers, you have basically a great conversion rate. And then how much is your cost per acquisition of customer? All this can be done today online.
Yeah, that's great, and it's a lot easier, and you have better information, frankly.
Absolutely, you have all the data.
Yeah, so in the book you talk about this idea that it's important to have a plan, but it's equally as important to be able to tear that plan up and to make another plan. And I see a lot of people get stuck somewhere in the rut between making the plan, tearing it up, another plan. We have a question that's come from Twitter or the live stream that talks about, when is it time to fold a business? When have you been doing it too long? And when is it time to jump to do a side business and make it your full-time gig? Are there signs that people can tell and recognize?
Yeah, the signs are never the amount of time, because of course, listen, people have to keep their day jobs and keep the lights on, and maybe you're putting in 1 hour a week on this job, on this concept, and if you're putting 1 hour a week on, maybe it'll flourish in 5 years. If you're putting in 10 hours a week, maybe it'll flourish in 5 months. The question is, have you exhausted all the avenues to execute this at minimal cost and taken affordable steps? Have you gotten the right people around you who have the same goal in mind? Have you talked or consulted any level of a mentor? Somebody who's been there, not necessarily super successful, but they could be moderately successful. They could be one of our great teachers or professors in schools that have operated very successful businesses. They just happen to decide to want to give their knowledge and brain to the next generation. And if the business is not calling you, then you can't call the business. You go, I closed FUBU 3 times from '89 to '92. I made a small mistake, so I closed it because I ran out of $1,000. And then I would see somebody and they would wear a FUBU shirt and they go, man, when are you gonna buy some more? I bought 7 of them already. I tell everybody, and then people kept calling me and kept calling me. So that was the first part of the business, calling me. The second part of the business was, I couldn't get it off my mind. And I wanted to do it. And I was excited about opening it up. So I'm looking in the mirror going, this is something I want to do, right? And many times if you don't have passion, you're just going to go, you know what, it was a pain in the butt, stop calling me, right? So the business calls you and you call the business. It is just like a relationship.
Yeah, one of the most important things I think that you said to me before is we talked about this role of passion, which I think is like really mysterious. People don't, Cuban says like, forget about passion. Lori's all about passion. And what you said about passion was that you can't just be passionate about the product or service. You have to be passionate about the actual running of the business. Is that a piece of the puzzle that you think a lot of people forget when they want to do their own thing?
Yeah, well, absolutely. But I think that we can't, I'm somebody who, as I said, I'm dyslexic. I also don't like paying attention to super details. And I think that that's when you start having the people that are around you and the like-minded people that you need around you to work with you. I think that you go and start to find the people that will help take on those duties with you. Now, if you're operating with the power of broke and everybody's working for free on the common cause, then you know you have something. Right? But if you're operating, you're just paying them, they're just doing a job. And the power of broke also reveals character. You start to see who really is working with you. They jump ship when they don't have any money, right? Or you see who steps up to the plate. You see who's not, they don't have the same necessary morals because they have nothing to lose, right? So you sit there and say, hey, I need you at 12 o'clock at night to come and work. And they go, screw you. I don't do that. But if you were paying them, they'd go, oh damn, this is gonna fire me. I'm not gonna make it.
Right.
You know, it cuts straight to the chase.
Yeah, sure. So I think what you're talking about is that even though you didn't have a traditional background, you didn't start with a ton of money, you were able to cultivate this kind of perspective. And this really touches on something that you once told me in a story about how when you started, you saw all your peers who were starting labels, they were looking around, they were saying, listen, we're gonna last forever, we're always gonna be successful. And you said, wait a second, there's going to be an end date to everything. I need to extend myself. I need to start investing in other companies.
Yeah.
Do you think when you operate with the power of broke, it changes your perspective and the way that you view business holistically?
Yes, the power of broke in that situation means that you have to have a healthy paranoia in any business you do, because you've seen on Shark Tank where, you know, Troy Carter said, there's the guy in the garage trying to eat your lunch. He wants to come in here and eat your lunch. And, you know, when, FUBU was at its peak, I knew from history, which is, you know, that a hot clothing line lasts hot 5 years. And you have your unicorns like Nike and Louis Vuitton and Nike, Louis Vuitton and Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
But other than that, the cycle is up and down in 5 years. And I knew once we were in our second, third year, and we had already tried to purchase Ted Baker and Kappa and some other ones, and we weren't doing that well with those, I was like, all right, I got 3-4 more years, and FUBU's gonna be dead, and we spent some money on these, and I'm not gonna have everybody thinking that I'm a one-trick pony, and I have to take care of this distribution pipeline, and I'm not as good as I may think I am.
Yeah.
So I better buckle down, and I better get some more guys around me who are younger and cooler and hipper, and we better make sure that we do something else. And so then, you know, then Coogee came around and Married to the Mob and Etonic and all the other ones we have. But you know, it's that hunger that, you know, every rapper has when somebody's trying to take them out the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the hunger and also the ability to not only connect with other people, but to find people that can guide you, that can mentor you. We have a question coming in from online. Asking a lot of successful people recommend getting a mentor. Where do you recommend finding a mentor? How did you find a mentor, and what role has that mentor played for you, or mentors?
Mentors are probably by far the most important aspect to success after you talk about discipline and passion and love. Of course, my mother was my first mentor. A teacher was my second who believed in me. And my third mentor was a guy named Tim who operated a small little bodega in my neighborhood. And you know, if you look at somebody who's operating a business successfully for 20 years in your neighborhood and just keeping the doors open through all these things, from recession to gas shortages to, well, just change of, the economy and change of what people like, that person understands the fundamentals to business.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and that was a mentor. And then as I grew older, my partners are mentors. And then I sought out Seth Godin. He's a really amazing mentor. And I sought out Jay Abraham. Maybe only 5 years ago, I knew that I was getting a little older, and that those individuals at that stage of life have seen so many things that I can learn from them.
And of course, Jay Abraham is featured in the book.
Jay Abraham is featured in the book.
13 other entrepreneurs.
13 other entrepreneurs in the book. So you have people like Kevin Plank, who's doing about $4 billion a year. I go to in Under Armour. I go to his office. I leave there, and I feel like such a loser. Nothing to do with money.
Jump out the window.
Nothing to do with money. This guy is so intense. I just feel like doing push-ups right there in the office.
Yeah.
I mean, he's using. He won't even say the names. He's like, you know what? He don't want to say the N word, and it's a 4-letter word in his name, in his company, in the Adidas and Reebok. He said, I have so much respect for them, but F them. I'm gonna kill them. Right? That's his attitude. And then I met a younger version of him, Rob Dyrdek. The skateboarder. This guy is so intense. He's gonna explode from internal combustion.
Yeah.
Right? These guys are like intense,
yeah.
right? But then I have like Acacia Brindley, the girl who created basically what we know today as selfies. This girl was, a couple of years ago, she was really bullied a lot. The girl who was kind of like all the girls leave her alone, and she sits at the edge of the table. And she started going on social media before selfies were famous. And she started putting pictures of herself to gain confidence, and people all hated her. And then after a while, they said, and she didn't do pictures where she was, showing her body, just of her face, right? And then she won the crowd over because she never responded to anybody who said negative comments about her. She has 14 million people following her now, and McDonald's and the Olympics, pay her a crap load of money just to give her insight on that. Think about that. 14 million people following you, and everybody saying everything about you that they can negative, and you don't respond to people like that. I'm not that mature.
I'm not either.
All right?
I won't ever reach it either.
Give me a couple of drinks, and I'll be like, man,
Yeah.
Yo.
That would be a different kind of interview, wouldn't it?
Yo, mama. I'm dyslexic. I know how to spell yo, mama.
We're Daymond's entourage. We need to. He's on up there. Okay, so we're going to get to some questions. As I promised, again, use that hashtag GALive or ask in the live chat panel. One more question before we turn it over to the audience, this audience here and the audience online. The question for you is about authenticity and about leveraging your own sort of brand, whether you want to call it that or not, your life story, as a way to build a business. You have done that really well on Shark Tank. You're sort of known as the people's shark, and you've used your story as a tool. Yeah. How do you think the power of broke helps people do that?
So it's a good question, because the power of broke makes you earn authenticity. Mm-hmm. You don't buy it. You know, it's the people, it's the mommy bloggers out there today who have 1,000 people following them online, and you know they're talking about their challenges and or how to raise a family, and people are giving them $10 a month, and you have 1,000 people giving you $10 a month, and it's an authentic voice, and we see that now all over the time with Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. People who have whether a certain style in interior decorating or in food, chefs and things of that nature. When you operate with the power of broking, you have this authentic customer base. When you go and buy your customers and say, "Oh, I'm sending out free samples to 1 million people." Okay, you know, are those the 1 million people that like it? Do they want it?
Right.
Who cares about you? Where did the sample come from? I have 10 samples. I'm giving it away to everybody else. So authenticity is something that is really the power of broke. I mean, we see it all the time with music artists. Right. You know, we all know where Biggie Smalls is from, where Tupac is from, where Billy Joel is from, even where Elton John, Bruce Springsteen is from. Why? Because if you can't have a true following within your neighborhood, if you're Bruce Springsteen, you can't have New Jersey rooting for you, or Billy Joel, Long Island rooting for you, or Brooklyn rooting for Biggie Smalls, you're not going to make it anywhere else, right? You have to have that true following. And authenticity is exactly, you know, what you need. And the power of broke is going out there and making sure that you have a true crowd and your acid test is real. And unfortunately, we have to be realistic. Everybody's not going to have a great idea.
This is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want you to get to that idea and fail fast, or start to understand how to succeed. Because if you come to me and say that you have this great idea, I was sharing the other day, of selling, you know, used baby wipes, I'm not sure that's a great idea.
You could try.
Well, there's certain places you can sell that, and they may be, you know, they may smell a little tangy, but I'm not sure that's a great idea. But you need to then know that, because if you go and try to spend $500,000 marketing your used baby wipes, you may realize after the $500,000 that it wasn't such a great idea.
And that's a great segue. The baby wipe thing, I'm not so sure, but definitely knowing your market and being a successful entrepreneur is a great segue to one of our questions. I'm sorry if I butcher your name. Eric Antwi online asking, can you identify some best practices that separate entrepreneurs that make it and entrepreneurs that don't? I know there's some in your book that I could recite, but it's for you, not me.
Entrepreneurs that don't make it are the entrepreneurs that assume that things are going to be good and they don't do their homework. They're the ones that say, well, listen, if it's a $50 billion market, and if I only get 1% of the market, you know how much money I'm going to have? Well, I mean, the real estate market is a $1 trillion market. If you buy one house, you know, do you think that you have any luck, right, in growing to the trillion? Or the bankruptcy market is a $1 trillion market. I guarantee with that way of thinking, you're going to get 1% of that market. Now, the other unsuccessful entrepreneurs are also people that think that they can just buy everybody to do the job. Because if you really look at NBA players who were bankrupt 3 years out of the league, a little bit over 60% of them, or you look at lotto winners who were bankrupt 3 years after winning Powerball or the lotto, what happened? They basically operated without the power broken. They thought they could buy everything, and it didn't work for them. Because look, I always say that look at an athlete. They have I think athletes get a bad rap because they have a skill set where from maybe 8 years old up to 21, 22, they have been trained to be the most proficient running whatever type of machine in the world. Yeah. They've come up against everybody and they busted their butt. They were in that gym 6 in the morning all the way till 9 o'clock at night, and they mastered that skill set. Now they're getting, unlike us, they're getting huge revenue around 25, but at 45, they're not going to get revenue.
Right.
At 25, we're growing. They're peaking at 25, and they're whatever the case is. And they then go and they don't apply that same skill set of busting their butt to understand. The few do, but most of them don't apply that same skill set in operating and learning a business. That most likely, if they get into it 30, they're going to have till they're 70. Right?
Yeah,
if they get
sure.
into sports and get paid at 21, they're probably going to get paid till 40, hopefully if they're lucky, right? And that's what happens. And you see the power of broke that they do not apply, and you see how it affects them.
Yeah. So thanks to everyone for asking your questions. Keep them coming in. What you don't see if you're watching on the live stream is that we actually have about 150 people who are here with us live, and we want to make sure that they get a chance to ask questions as well. So I'm going to stop talking to you and start talking to them. Does anyone have questions? Okay, one right over there.
Hi, my name is Julie, and
Thank you.
thank you. I got a mic. This is exciting. So in chapter 2, you say, be resourceful, be yourself, be relentless, and be first. So I'm first. Can you be my mentor?
No pressure. No pressure.
Oh, great answer. Great question. Love it. Honestly, I'll be very truthful. You don't want a mentor like me because you'll speak to me once every 6 months. And you need to have, again, what and who you can speak to every day. The reason why I did write all 3 of my books, none of my books are written for about luxury and jewelry and other crap. One was Display of Power, how you have the power inside that everybody else has. If you can't tap into it, here's how to tap into it. The next one is The Brand Within, that you're a brand before anything else. Can you put yourself in 2 to 5 words? Because if you don't know what you stand for, then you can leave it up to us to interpret. And this one, The Power Broke, you can use it for yourself. The reason why I did that is because when I speak and all the things I do, everybody asks me this question, I put it in here. But don't go after, again, take affordable steps, right? I never went after Jay Abraham, Tony Robbins, and all those people when I just needed the local guy, Tim, from the area. And I'm being real with you. So it's very hard for me to be a mentor hand-to-hand on the phone, but hopefully my Instagram, my Twitter, my tapes that I put out, all the free stuff, you know what I mean? And I put out a lot of free stuff, so I'm not saying, oh, you had to buy the book, because I'm trying to, I'm going on Facebook all the time and try to educate people. But I like it because you should have went there. I like that you took the swing at it, you know what I'm saying?
Basically, good try. And the free stuff is good. You can follow Daymond on just about every social network possible. We just did a Facebook live stream in the back. I believe he's doing a Reddit AMA after this. We're going to go to your questions again in just a second. But first, from our audience here, you had a question. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for giving this talk, and it's been fun listening. I'm a recent full-time UX program grad here, and for one of my portfolio pieces, I'm designing a calendar application that helps people find events businesses host and
Find the best what?
What's that?
Find the best what?
The events that businesses host, like sporting events,
Sure, okay.
following celebrities and their talks. So I'm still doing research. So my question to you. Where can I find where you're going to be next, talks you're giving? Because I went to your website, couldn't find anything on there. So just doing my research right now.
Great question. I generally don't do too many, I do a couple of public things. So I'm on tour right now and for the book, and I am hitting Texas and Florida. And then the main things that I do where the public has access to is, I do a Shopify Build a Business competition. I do something with Capital One. I actually did it here. And I do the Miller Lite Tap the Future. And those each have about 10 dates. And they are, and they're really great because they're not just me running my mouth. They're also people who are pitching and getting, money without having to give up any bit of their company. So we need to do a better job of putting that on my site. And where I like to do speaking that is not on the site is I pop up places. I just pop up in places like this and get a sandwich and get to talking and stuff like that, because that's where you find the real people who are like surprised. And you see how many people either stay or not. So again, I need to do a better job of it myself, and I love to hear that information.
Were you told there would be sandwiches? I didn't hear anything about it.
I was.
We love sandwiches.
I was told there was
We're
sandwiches.
going to go back to the audience in just a second. There'll be sandwiches next. We only have about 5 more minutes before Daymond's going to start signing. Here, if you're live, you can participate in that. A couple more questions, though, and let's keep these short and simple. The first one's from Gigi217 online. She talks about positivity and maintaining a positive attitude. The power of broke, how important is attitude to moving forward?
Well, you have to have a positive attitude moving forward. I mean,
how has it played a role in your life after a failure?
You know, so I keep my positive attitude. I think that really touches on something even bigger. When I was 16, I ran across a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And how many people here has read Think and Grow Rich? Raise your hand. All right. So it's really basically the main book that they say have attributed to creating more millionaires or more successful people in the world. And when I read that book, and it told me and it taught me about goal setting, and goal setting meaning setting, I set about 6 goals that expire in 6 months. I set 2 goals that expire in 5 years, and 1 goal that expires in 20 years, ranging from my business, health, family, things of that nature. Those are the things that have kept me positive. I find that when I am down and out and or depressed or whatever, I go back to those goals and I feel better. Because then I also think, of course, that there's so many other people out in this world that don't have anything, and how dare am I, and this is when I was 15 years old, how dare am I somebody to say that I have it tough when there's people who can't walk, right? Yeah. So when I read those goals, it basically reinforces how blessed I am and how I have to go out there and bust my butt to do better, to do better for other people as well.
That's great feedback. So a final question today, we're going to take it from online. Jake asks, what is the single piece of advice, the single most important piece of advice that you received when launching your first business? Maybe it'll help some folks that are watching today.
The single most best piece of advice I ever had was, money is a great servant but a horrible master. It was a guy who said, if you ever do things for money, you'll never make it, or if you make it, you'll spend it the wrong place, or while making it, you'll end up in the wrong place.
Yep.
And over my course of time, I didn't believe it at the time. Over the course of time, if I see people who have failed or succeeded or ended up in the wrong place, I looked at that, I thought about that comment, and I said, he's actually right.
Yeah, which proves your point that there is power in being broke. The Power of Broke is out now everywhere where books are sold. Thanks again to our sponsor, startups.co, Entrepreneur Magazine, and of course, General Assembly. Yes, if you want to find out more about what Daymond's working on, like I said, you can follow him on just about every social platform. You can go to his website and make sure you pick up a copy of your book. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching today. My name is Michael Parrish DuDell. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you. Great job.